Ladies and gentlemen, today the boys will be discussing the topic of prayer. Join us as we do a deep dive into the Word of God to learn more about prayer.
But I've had enough, it's time to say goodbye. 3 a.m.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the YAP Sesh. It's your boys,
Rye.
and Sai. And it's a beautiful, lovely, what's actually now morning of the 4th of
Very,
July.
very
So
late night of the 4th. Morning, I guess.
late night podcast vibes, am I right? Very blessed to be here. We made it back safely from Arkansas, and then we went to Texas. New rain, new Riz.
Wow.
So that was pretty.
How many days were you gone for that? Because I feel like you were gone not too long ago, and now you're already back.
Yeah, because we were in New Mexico, and then we went from being in New Mexico to coming back to here, and then like after we came back here, then we went to Arkansas, and then Arkansas to Texas, then Texas here. So we've only stayed overnight twice like this entire time.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I know as the lifeguard and stuff out in the good old CO.
It's all right, man. The weather's, it's been a very, very nice summer. Not too crazy. I mean, the rain, in the afternoon is usual, but not
With that
too
dang
bad
old
here.
skibbity rain.
No.
I'm sorry. That hurt my soul to say that. Uh enough with the witty banner. We decided that for the podcast, what we're gonna do is before each of our more Christianly talks on the podcast, we wanted to bring to y'all a quote that kind of resonates with us or just resonates with life in order to kind of just dig deep and think about some things that we might not always think about in life. So I'll let you go first on what your quote is for this one.
All right. I found this a couple days ago. I don't know who's it from, but let me see. It says, "Become the person your younger self needed."
What does that mean to you?
I don't know. I think it. You kind of have to look back at yourself when you were, younger and see. Like, I think as a kid, you really look up to older dudes and people in the church. Like before I was in the youth group, I looked up to a lot of the dudes that were in the youth group, and they helped me out a lot when I first started stuff with like SYD and some other things. And so I think to me that means just kind of just looking out for the younger guy, make sure they're always included, and then also just remembering to be a good example to the next generation, because they're gonna copy your every move. Because I think when you're older in the church, you got all the little eyes watching you. So I think to me, it means just make sure that you're setting a good example for them. And yeah, just being like a good mentor and someone they can look up to, not just in the way they act, but spiritually, taking notes during the lessons, staying off your phone, and because they're always watching. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
that's true. I think for me, especially now, like thinking about you kind of just get like you kind of get a lot of hits of nostalgia, especially once you get to college. It's kind of like your first breath out into the world, or at least even like once you get out of high school, like just like knowing that you're like out in the real world now at this point, and knowing that you can't really always have that dependency on your parents. It's like, man, we were in the we were in the van and we were on our way back, and we were all just like listening to songs of our childhood shows and whatnot, just jamming out to those. It's just like, dang, you know. And I think like what I'm doing right now, I would have looked up to somebody that's doing what I did. Like if somebody were like this, like came to our church and stuff or something like that, and did something, or somebody free like went as like a youth group even to like a performance like this, or like what we did in New Rain, then I would have looked up to them. And I think that's super cool to recognize that, I've been able to give it be given this opportunity. And then like even after that, then it's like, man, I really wish I would have like actually experienced this. And so I think like when you're looking back at life and stuff, it's just important to realize just the impacts and the little things. Everything goes into a child's mind, They're so like vulnerable and they'll be easily influenced. So making sure you're taking that time to really hone in, and really kind of just lock in on being the best for us, God fearing men that we can be.
yeah, I totally agree.
Um, my quote, it says, culture says fall in love, but God says walk in love. Everything that falls breaks. Culture also says love is a feeling, but Jesus says us love is an action. And I've seen that quite a few times throughout um, the Instagram reels or whatever you're on, out there, the people out there. But I think that's like such a deep thing, especially in dating world now. And like, I mean, I have somebody in mind, but like, you might not. But like, even then, it's like being able to have to show that action is, or have the action of love is, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort, and knowing that God was willing to give His only Son and to die on the cross for us. I mean, that's the biggest ultimate action of love. So I think being able to be willing to do something like that shows the most love you can for a person.
Yeah, I really like that. I think, as you said, in today's culture, love is not at all what is seen in the Bible. I don't even think they don't even understand what love is anymore, because it's all like a game to
Yeah.
them. And it's all selfish acts and nothing for the
Mm.
other person, which, I mean, like you said, yeah, it's acts that you're doing for others, not just trying to receive. So yeah, it's a good one as well.
Yeah. Good thoughts. Good thoughts. Good thoughts. And I think that just like being able to show that side of love to others is also really hard, because a lot of people out in the world haven't even been shown what actual love is, so they have a hard time accepting that love. A lot of people will be
For
like,
sure, for
no,
sure.
I don't deserve that, or I don't, I'm not worthy of that. And so I think reaching out to those people and continuing to show that love is definitely going to gravitate them, or allow them to gravitate more towards us, as Christians at least.
Absolutely. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and click that bell to make sure you never miss out on the next drop.
So, today our talk is going to be a prayer cast. Prayer cast. All right. That's what I'm naming it. Anytime we have something that's like I named the last one music cast. So,
Oh, you did? I
this is
didn't even
prayer
realize
cast.
that.
Well, I didn't like name the episode it, but like
Oh,
I, I
I see,
named
yeah.
yeah, I'm putting them in categories. All right. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, today's topic is prayer, and prayer is a very, I don't know, powerful. It's very powerful in the church. Outside of the church, I mean, you don't hear much about prayer unless you're talking about other religions, but you don't really hear about just somebody that's not really religious, not really atheist, but not really religious, talking about prayer and whatnot.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think
no, yeah, go.
oh, I was just gonna say, I think people in the world don't see it as the same thing we do. Um, in the church, we see it as a direct like line to God, to like just to talk to Him whenever. And people, I think, in the world, when something bad happens, people are just like, oh, I'm like, they kind of just vaguely say, oh, I'm praying for you. I think people think it's more like you're on my thoughts, like you're on my
Yeah,
mind. I've been thinking about you. Well, as a Christian, we know we are like talking to God, and He has created that so we can actually be able to do that, which is an amazing thing. So,
yeah, definitely. So, what I did, at least for my notes, this one, I wrote about what I knew about prayer, and then I wrote down things that I wanted to know more about prayer or work on about prayer. So, my list on what I knew about prayer consisted of, prayer is our relationship to God, prayer is our communication to God, and the more we pray, the stronger our relationship with God is. Prayer is meant to be shared with other Christians, and God answers prayers usually in ways we don't always recognize, and prayer heals our lives. So, I don't know. What would you answer to what you actually know about prayer?
yeah, I mean, definitely a lot what you said. I think over the years, I've kind of taken a new look on it. Like I said, before it was it was a little bit more vague, and I think I was just like talking to myself. And more recently, it's kind of gotten to where like I feel like it's more like I'm more focused on it, and like I'm
Yeah, yeah.
actually just like, it's hard to say that you're actually talking to someone when it's just like you're praying in your mind on like the car ride. But
Yeah, yeah.
you kind of do when you do it more consistently, and it's more like you take the time to do it, you can feel, I think you can feel the realness of it. And I think, like you said, it's our communication to God. What was I gonna say? Yeah, just like what you were. I think you pretty much pointed all
Touched
the
on all
things
those
out. I was
bases.
gonna say, yeah.
Mm. Okay, so I'll let you go first for this question. Like, what do you want to know more about prayer? Like, how do you want to get deeper in your prayers? What makes you think about how you can deepen your relationship with God through prayer?
Um, hmm. I think one thing that I think that has helped me with my prayer life is like actually like setting a time to like do it throughout the day. I think
Yeah,
sometimes it's easy to just do it like before you go to sleep, or before you eat, um like those type of things. But I think
yeah,
learning wise, I feel like that's a good question. I have never really thought of that before, because in the Bible, I guess in the Bible, you hear of all the great people we read about just always praying to God, and
Yeah.
like Daniel,
Mm, yeah.
he he
It's a
did
good
it,
one.
and I think we look at those characters in the Bible as like heroes and like amazing people, and I think for me, I just don't feel like it's like I'm just like talking to God, man. But like when you read it like that, you
Yeah.
feel like it's so powerful and like all the words he's
Hmm.
saying. So maybe just like how do you make it seem like that? Because I mean, at the end of the day, it all sounds like God will listen to you, but
Yeah.
it's like sometimes you don't know what to say, and that works too. God knows your heart and all, but yeah, probably just like I don't know, like I was saying, just like this with Daniel and David and like Jesus in the garden. It's like it just seems so
Pardon?
like amazing and like thought out and like real. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe just try and be able to get to that like realness where it's just like I'm all out,
You're all in. One for God. Yeah. Dang. I like that. I like that you brought up Daniel. Yeah, that's a really good one. Um, what I put down is that the fact that like I want to use prayer in order to kind of resist temptation a lot more, because oftentimes you hear about, if you're feeling temptation or whatever, you know um you should just pray, and sit and wait. And I feel like helping to kind of learn more about like what that means and how to learn to kind of lean into that more is definitely going to help with a lot more things, especially on a day to day.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Also
good.
just yeah. So also like I think sometimes it can be hard to just be accepting of the lessons that you're learning, just like because there is so much resistance that comes with like the willingness to pray.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you pray, you're giving up that control, you're surrendering, and that usually is hard to do because you'll be like, oh man, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in control of the situation or whatnot. But in reality, that's what God wants of us. And so oftentimes we'll kind of not try to reject the answer, but like want to control the answer that we're given and want it to be our own. But God often, shuts that down real
Yeah,
quick.
something I've heard a lot in the past, and I'm sure all of you have heard it. I know so I have definitely heard this before, but
Yeah.
something that I constantly think about when I'm praying is for things is like, when you're praying for patience, let's just say, God's not just gonna just give you patience and then all of a sudden your little sibling isn't as annoying, just like right there. He's gonna give you
Yeah. Yeah.
opportunities to learn patience and use patience in your day-to-day life. So, I mean, that goes through all things, the patience, strength, you know, anxiety, other things. And, you know, I think
Yeah.
that's just some things we do in today's world, we want it right now. Like, just
Yeah.
God, I need you to fix this right now. Like, help me get through this. And sometimes we don't know where he's taking us until we look behind us and you're like, oh, wow, okay. I see how you got me here and got me through that all. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Yeah. I think that's one of the best learning things about prayer and its effect on us. Um, so I feel like I wrote this down and I was saying just prayer in general has a very close connection with miracles. I think that a lot of times you hear prayer and then you're like, oh, this miracle happened because of this prayer, you didn't think that was going to happen. You get the, you know, Jesus healing the lame man when he was, all of his friends brought him to, because they were just so persistent in like prayer, and they believed in God to a point where God realized that they were faithful to him. And the word miracle in Latin comes from the word mirari, and it means to wonder. So in Latin, every time they were saying, miracle, they were just saying it's a wonder, because you just don't know how something came about, and it's like a spectacle, and you're like, man. And I think that a lot of times the word miracle is lost in translation. When, I mean, a lot of miracles come from prayer. The word miracle is just, it's so dumbed down in this generation. You just say, oh, it's a miracle, but a lot of people don't realize the weight that has.
Yeah, I mean, when you pray for something and something like that happens, that's the work of God. Like, that didn't just a coincidence, something like that where you read in the Bible, that's a work of God that you have like asked for. I mean, God gave Jesus the powers to heal the people, and I mean, Jesus was a normal human just like us. So when he does those, I think in the Bible it does say signs and wonders, which translated
Mm-hmm.
miracles as well. Yeah, that's like it's a direct work of God, and I think people just don't understand the weight of that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely gets lost in translation a lot. When I was doing my research, I came across this story, and it's a pretty, it's a decent story. It's about, you know the power of prayer and how much it's done for this family that you're about to hear about. So before there was social media, there used to be like this prayer chain that was like in a shared email on the interwebs. And there's like a lot of religious groups, people in that entire forum or email chain. So in that chain was a God-fearing man, and he had a wife who was named Lisa. And at this point, Lisa has, she passed away to cancer about 20 years ago, um, as of like 2024. But it's not the process about how she died that, I want us to focus on. It's, what happened before her passing. And it was 2002. She had experienced a series of unsuccessful chemo treatments. The medical team couldn't see her living for too much longer, and so she had one last wish, and that last wish was to visit Gatlinburg and to spend her last Christmas with her family. And so they were getting ready. Everything was arranged. They were planning everything. They had the trip ready to go. And then she found out that she had a large tumor that had built up. And so it was to the point where this trip was going to be impossible. So they called in the doctor. The doctor checked her out. They rushed, or I guess they rushed to the hospital. The doctor checked her out. The doctor was actually an atheist. And she told the family that another miracle wasn't going to be able to save them this time. That they strongly suggest. Sorry, let me say that one more time. She said that another miracle wasn't going to be able to save them this time, and that they needed to call the family and tell them that faith wouldn't be the answer. There we go. There's the quote. And so the next day, she was set to actually have her last chemo lesson, or chemo. What's the word? Session.
Man,
And so, yeah. And so The doctor had strongly advised against it, but instead, they went forward with it. And it was during this treatment that the husband, he was in deep prayer, and he was fervently, he was going at it. He was in the word. And so he goes to this prayer chain email list, and he asks for prayers from everybody. And everybody, the entire prayer chain, they rally behind this man, this husband, praying for the well-being of his wife, Lisa. And they prayed for a long, long time. And it was, quote, Lisa's husband believed that his pure intentions would allow Jesus Christ to do anything in his life. It was about after 48 hours, against all odds, her tumor shrank by 20%. And at that point, her bowels were able to function again. And the vacation, it went as planned. And it was about 9 months later that Lisa ended up passing. But it wasn't that her death wasn't in pain, but it was instead, it was healing, knowing that she had God looking over her, even in her last couple of months. Because if you think about it, God decided that He was going to put His hand on her in order to fulfill her last wish, in order to receive this last blessing. And it was through that prayer, through that faithfulness, through that power, through everybody rallying behind this family, that they were able to do that.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, when I was reading that, I was like, there's so many times where I've had family members, they've passed, just from treatments and stuff, and knowing that even though like my family member might have passed or something like that, I'm still blessed to know that they're up in heaven, and I'm not going to stop believing in God, because I know that God has the ability to do things like this as well. God also, He also allows us to experience the loss, to also feel His, like, the rejoice of knowing that, those around us that are in the faith, that are in Christ, also have that promise of eternal life.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you don't know what happened to the doctor, but I mean, God uses different people to plant seeds, and I mean, him being an atheist kind of makes the story even more powerful, because I mean, he thought that it was kind of impossible, and faith. You said faith wasn't gonna save him this time, and it ended up working to their advantage. And I just wonder if he has kind of maybe rethought some things. And it's crazy how God just works in so many different ways that we don't even see till like later.
Yeah. If I were to guess, he probably chopped it up to a miracle.
Probably, yes, probably.
It's crazy. It's crazy because you hear that often amongst even those who don't believe. I don't know what you have in your notes. I got more.
Just keep going. Just keep going, man.
Keep it coming. Keep coming. All right. So, I think that especially with prayer, we oftentimes do pray when our at lows, like Lisa and her husband. But it's also important to realize that we should be praying in our highs. When we're at the top of the mountain, we're at the peaks of life. When we're able to really recognize His blessings. And one thing I've really recognized through like doing New Rain and stuff, you can pray through anything. Can be a prayer. Any action, anything. Like, you could be on your knees, you could be eyes closed, hands up. You could be praying in any way. I mean, you could be singing a song is prayer. If you're able to relate to that song and it's deep enough, and you're actually into it, you're actually singing the words, you're recognizing what the words you're saying and the power behind them, you're able to sing that prayer. That's a prayer where you feel that in your soul. And I think that oftentimes I'll find myself when I'm singing, it's a prayer, really, because I'm crying out to God, you know. I'm recognizing that it doesn't have to just be me singing. It can be me singing with the intention of having that conversation with God, knowing that I'm reaching out to him, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think um, people kind of put prayer into a box. You know, growing up, you're kind of taught to pray like, "Dear God, this, amen." You know, and
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people, that's how we do it at church. You know, but I think it there's no like wrong way. Like, I mean, I'll be at work when I'm super bored and there's nothing to do. I just pray while I'm working, and it's just in my head. I'm like, I'm still doing my job, but it's just like a active thing in my mind, you know? And I think we could just have like throughout the day. I think my mom's told me this in the past, but you know, throughout the day, you can just be walking and be like, oh, like you see something beautiful, like the sunset. And you're just like, Lord, thank you for this creation. You know, like I
Yeah.
think we get too stuck in the what's the word? Like the system, you know, where
Mhm.
it could just be like an active conversation you're having with the creator of the universe at any time in the day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think like you said, yeah, when you're truly like when you're singing songs and praises to the from the heart, you feel it and it moves you. And yeah, it's an amazing thing when you can feel that for sure.
Oh yeah. And think in my notes, I talk about just kind of the effect that realizing that um you know, if like we can really follow like First Thessalonians 5:17, pray without ceasing. Um, I mean, with God, you're literally never truly alone. You're never alone. So I mean, when you're off on your own, those are perfect times to be talking to God. You know, I
Mhm.
mean, he's never actually not there. You know, think about it. Like, there's nothing to hide from God. There's no reason to hide
Yes.
anything from God. Anything we say, He already knows it all. And I mean, think about this. You know, if you knew that the person that provided everything for you, the person that loved you the most, the person that had the most grace for you, the person that had the most patience, and the person that gave their own son for you, the person that forgives you no matter what, the person that cared for you specifically and knew your name specifically, and the person that brings you life every single day, and like you could keep going on and on. You could just keep like, and knowing that that person is wrapped up all in one, and he's there with you 100%, 1,000% of the time. Like, who wouldn't want to talk to that person? You know, that's the creator of the
Exactly.
universe.
I had something very
That's the
similar to that in my notes. So I'm happy you brought it up.
yeah,
Like the way I thought of it is like if you had a friend that you could just call at any time of the day or night, like anytime you need anything, they're gonna answer like immediately and just be able to help you. Like, why wouldn't you just use that? You know? I mean, if you
yeah.
were to call me at like 4 a.m., I probably if I heard it, I'd pick it up, but I might just sleep. I'd probably I'd probably just sleep through it. But if I heard it, I wake
Yeah,
up
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
okay, what's good? What's good? But like, yeah, we have like you said, a direct line to the creator of the universe, and you know, why wouldn't we use that at any point when we need him? So yeah, good stuff.
yeah. I think like as oftentimes like as just as Christians, like we oftentimes struggle with recognizing that he's always there, you know, just because of the idea of some like the idea of God is so hard to comprehend. Like the idea of like in infinity, like
Mm,
being infinite, you know, even
yeah,
when we use the word infinite, that's giving it a limit, you know, which is
yeah. I
crazy.
think I mean, he's outside of time and space, which we see from the Bible, which it sounds like something from a movie. Like our minds can't even begin to understand
Like, what
what
does
that
that
is.
mean?
And I
Like,
don't
what does
know.
that mean? Like, you literally can't even, you can't even describe what that is. It's so,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's so hard to do. And, I don't know. It's just also, like, if you think about it, the more we're with God, the more we have the opportunities to be blessed. I mean, like, I don't know, feel like we're doing his good works. Like, if we're, if we're recognize, like, if your boss, think about, if your boss was there looking over your shoulder 100% of the time, all the time you're working, you're gonna want to do the right thing every single time. And we should be thinking about our Christian lives the same way. God is literally, he's looking at us 100% of the time, all the time, and we shouldn't be acting like, oh, I'm gonna get away with this one.
Yeah.
If we're thinking that God is there, if we're thinking that God is right there next to us 100% of the time, it should, and he's like always on our mind. If we're really, First Thessalonians 5:17, praying without ceasing, then that allows us and helps us to recognize that, oh man, that's a constant reminder, so we can truly, like, I don't know, bless him with, like, our hearts, souls, minds, and bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I forget what the exact verse is, but it's like whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is of good repute. Think on these things. I think when we I think I see this in myself all the day when work is going slow and you're tired, you're having a rough day. If you just start thinking about good things and like just start talking to God, thanking him for things, you'll start seeing good things. You'll start being able to see the good throughout the day, even though it might be a hard time. I think it's when your mind is always negative, your mind looks for reasons why you're negative. Like it's like why are
Yeah.
we feeling this way? So we're gonna point out, oh, this person just cut me off in traffic. Like, oh, that bugs me so much.
Ah, jeez.
You know, ah, jeez. And um, but I think when we're thinking about like the things that we're thankful for and like the good stuff, and when we're talking to God, those things are just so much easier to just see throughout the day. And it turns out your day wasn't really that bad. Um,
Mm,
and like you said, that's just gonna make you want to do better when you know that you're thinking about God and like He's always watching. So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's good.
If you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure that you follow this account and you share it with others so that you and your friends never miss another YAP Sesh upload.
What a night, people dancing in slow motion.
So I have for you two analogies
Oh
on
boy.
like this like just like how to view prayer, and just like the idea of prayer. And so the first analogy, think if you were to get married, and I feel like this is really fitting because God oftentimes calls himself the Father, and he calls the church, his wife, as a marriage in that way. So if you were to get married to your significant other and then kiss each other at the wedding, seal the deal, write the papers. Why'd you get that face? Why'd you,
Nothing. Sorry.
um,
Continue.
if you were to kiss your a significant other, be at the wedding, write the papers, seal the deal, and then you were just to say, "Great, I'll see you in eternity." Uh, that wouldn't be okay, because you need to be able to like deepen your relationship with your partner. You got to be able to like grow with one another. It's much deeper than just the ceremony, aka like baptism. It's much deeper than just the baptism. There's more afterwards that comes with being a Christian and striving to be like God. We have to continue to strive to work with God and to work on a relationship with Him, and that relationship comes through prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a daily challenge, and I think when I was first thinking about getting baptized, one of the things I was like thinking about, maybe I'm not ready yet. Um, I remember my
Yeah,
dad told me
definitely.
a lot of a lot of the things that, like, baptism is just one mountain. Once you get to the top, you see all the other mountains, and so
Yeah,
it's a
it's a good
daily
one.
thing that you're learning every single day, like new things. Um, and yeah, it's like I mean, it's a Christian walk, and like you said,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't just be a Christian without, praying or being a part of the church. Like, those things go together, and that's how you get to the prize. You can't get there alone.
And then second analogy is more like a seeing God as like a father, just because we call him father. He's kind of like a you see him in that role. But if you think about this, if you had a kid, never asked you for anything, that would be weird, right? Because him asking for things, it shows like a trust and that he loves in us. And children ask their parents for things because they know that they will be provided for. Parents don't always give to their child what they want, and the child gets upset. Because children are like that. Um, I mean, that's okay because like the child will grow and understand more and more why the parents don't give the children certain things, and so he will learn to trust the parent more, and in turn, he'll continue to ask for things he wants. Things he thinks we would want to give him, and things we think we'd want him to have. And if you're a parent, your provider, and the child is completely dependent on the parent. They don't know anything about the world. They don't know what's out there. There's a lot of good things that you could also give your child, but also we might not give them every single good thing at once that is available. When a child comes and asks for you for something specific, it allows you to reciprocate with them. Reciprocate with giving them what is best for them that also aligns with what the child desires. And so I think like that's really good. That's a really good analogy I found. And
Hmm.
if you think, yeah, because like God, he says in it's Matthew 7:11, he says God desires to give you every good thing. And I think that he does desire that, but he's not going to give us every single good thing that we want all at once, even though he could. He has that ability as our provider, and we don't always get what we want, obviously, when we ask, but it's because he knows what's best, And I like that analogy a lot, especially in the aspect because I didn't see it from the perspective of he already has all good things that he could give us, but he doesn't because his timing is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's always got the better plan. We try and figure out the way that we see that's the best way, but at the end of the day, he's got it all figured out. And if I think the hard thing of that is just having faith and patience for, but he knows when the
Yeah,
perfect time for it, you know.
for anything.
Hmm.
I wrote down
Absolutely.
this quote. Maybe we shouldn't need more than his greatest gift of grace, but in our day-to-day lives, we do. We need a reassurance that we are his and he cares for us. I think that's a really good quote to think about
Yeah.
because he didn't need to give us his grace, but he gives it to us every single day, and we need that because it shows us that he does care about us. He is constantly thinking about us, and we receive that each and every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one as well. Ties in right perfectly.
Let me see. Okay, yeah. So I don't know if you remember, but there was this preacher or a speaker or something. He came to the church, and he said that he prayed this prayer about. He said he prayed that God would wear him out in his faith, wear him out in doing God's will. Wear him out in his works. I don't know if you remember that at all. Do you?
Parker?
Yeah, Parker.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a really good lesson. That's stuck with me, and I would think I was like maybe 15 at the time or something. I think so. It was a while back, or maybe I was 16, 17, somewhere around that time. But him
Uh-huh.
saying that he prayed to pray like for him to be worn out in God's works and to be able to. And then he proceeded to talk about how he was exhausted in the work that he did the following year and all the things he had done and like being built up and torn down by like multiple things and just having to battle through every single day. And that really hit me. It was just like that's such a deep prayer, really praying for God to like wear
Mhm.
you out in walking by him. Like I feel like a lot of people would be scared to pray that prayer because that's a lot to take on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we rarely see people asking for like you said, like hard things to put in their life to work through.
Yeah,
Usually
absolutely.
we're looking for the way out. But yeah, that's a powerful faith.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm so surprised. Like younger me, I mean, like I was immature, obviously. I mean, I'm still dumb now. Nobody's saying that's not true. I mean, but it's still true. So it's so funny.
Yes.
Um, but thing is, like, I don't know, just like I want to be able to do that with my faith. I want to be able to show that I can also pray that prayer and put in that work.
Mhm.
And there's a lot that comes with that. There's a lot of responsibility knowing that you're going to be responsible for your own faith and God's going to be there with you, but you have to put in the work, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's
Um, yeah.
a hard thing to think about. And I mean, I think a lot of things I've learned from the past year through different things, um, with challenges and different
Oh,
obstacles.
with your
You know,
dad and stuff.
yeah, it's easy to see those and kind of take a step away from God and kind of be like, why is this happening? I think we always ask
Yeah.
why me?
Mm.
But I think when you look back, when I look back on it personally, I've seen how He has strengthened my faith in Him and just my relationship with Him in general. And I think it's so powerful that even when we're in our lowest moments and we're still, we it's hard to keep going and we're questioning like what's going on. We just
Mm-hmm.
we gotta just hold on because God will see us through and He will, like you said, it's hard to get through that stage, but I think at the end of the day, it just grows our faith even more and our trust in Him that He's gonna do the right thing, which He always will. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think like Paul does a lot of stuff on prayer, talks about it
Mm.
a lot. And Philippians 4 is like one of my favorite chapters in the book,
Yeah, same.
of the the book of the Bible.
The book.
Um,
One of your favorite chapters in the Bible. Okay.
Yes, yes. Philippians 4:6 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and pleading with thanksgiving, let your request be made known." A very, if you're in the church and you're really in there, I feel like it's a very common verse, especially with
Mm.
those that have like anxiety. They'll definitely hear this verse a
Verse.
lot.
Yeah,
And
that has definitely helped me through some things and being a top a top verse that I've gone back to. Like we said earlier, you just gotta talk to him.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of recent, I don't know, I've had to think about more about having patience with myself as far as like, I don't know, growing in my faith. Just because I think like, I don't know, being more in tune with my faith has definitely helped me to realize that I like to rush things a lot more, and I like to be able to get the here and now
Mm.
a lot more. But a lot of it comes with surrendering. You hear surrender, 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 and a lot of times we fail to do that. But it's such a big part of being a Christian is surrendering to God.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of just give yourself up completely like that and just we think we have everything under control, and we think that we can you just put your head down and work and you'll get through it. um but I think once you figure out the faith and the trust that you can have with putting it in God's hands, it makes it so much easier to get through. Yeah, so but it's hard to, like you said, surrender your own thoughts and like desires of what you want to do when maybe God's path is, sometimes harder to get through, but at the end of the day, the reward of it will be greater um, than what you had planned out in the beginning.
For sure. It's a lot of something my sister said is a lot of sin in general comes up or comes about just from control. If you if you're sinning, if you're lying, you're wanting to control what people think about you. If you steal from somebody, you're wanting to control what you have. I don't know. I was about to go as far as killing, but like, I hope nobody's trying to kill. I hope nobody's trying to kill anybody on this listening to this. Um, but like that, if in that case, you'd be trying to control other people's lives and who's alive on Earth. So I mean, so yeah, I think a lot of like when we're talking about prayer, giving up the control is really. I mean, I think this also prayer is like collapsing into like your father's arms. You're just
Mm.
you're coming with all this burden, and he just kind of just he's there for you. Just he's gonna be the one to pick you up when you're down.
Yeah, I think the Father is a lot. I'm trying to figure out how I should word this. It's a lot easier thing to grasp than, like we were saying earlier, the God that is out of space and time.
Yeah,
Um, I think, but I mean, he is a father, and that's, as you see, he protects us and provides for us, and I think that's just the perfect example of what he is to us, and like how what you said, we come with all of our burdens and bruises, and he can just take us in his arms and give us comfort. Going back to the Philippians verse, yeah, I think it's a lot easier to picture him as like a father than the huge God in the sky with all the clouds on a huge, golden
yeah,
throne, that we're coming up to. So, yeah,
yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
great.
I just wanted to close out here because I don't have any more notes. But yeah, I just wanted to close out and just be like, just like for the audience out there, like I just want to like, what are we doing to actively be able to grow our relationship with God, and like, what are we doing to pray constantly, and like, what kind of moments are we looking for in order to pray with those who need it. So I think striving for more and more of that intimacy with God is ultimately what helps make you better Christian and better at following Him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that's one of the biggest things growing up in the church. Kind of creating your own relationship with God and not just it being your parents like, oh, okay, come on, Sunday morning, we're going to church. Put your clothes on, we're getting in the car. I think we really got to focus on ourselves, just him and God, us and God, and really make it personal. And that I think that's one of the big steps that we all got to work on.
Yeah. Got anything else?
No, I'm all good, man.
Once again, this has been your host,
Right.
Sai. Ryan Sai. This has been your host, Ryan.
Saying
Sai.
it again, sigh. Okay, 3 times.
There you go. Anyways, this has been the YAP Sesh. Thanks for all the support, and make sure you get candy on your way out the door. And thanks for listening, folks.
What?